This episode of Film Riot is brought to you by Domain.com.
How about that?
Oh, you like that angle?
Yeah, I would just say tilt down a little bit and pan
Well,
right.
that's why I can't unless I have something to stand on.
Yeah, he's getting a phone case.
It's tilted up because I
Well, no. Walk it in.
Welcome to Film Riot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Connolly, and last week we talked about day 1 and 2 of production for our new short, Portal Combat. If you haven't seen that, go here to check it out, and if you haven't heard me talk about shorts yet, they are going to be bigger Film Riot sketches, basically like this Portal Combat short. It's not a full short film, but it's also bigger than a Film Riot sketch. So for instance, Portal Combat would be considered a short, Proximity would be considered a short film, and smaller shorts inside of Film Riot episodes are sketches. This makes it less confusing and lets you know what to expect from each thing we're doing. But kicking off day 3, we showed up on the location to this. Which made production audio even more difficult than it already was with that freaking compressor. Between those two issues, grabbing usable production sound was definitely a challenge, but one challenge that we made sure to focus on because sound is one of the most important aspects of your film. We were also only supposed to shoot for 2 days, but the challenges of that location definitely made what we needed to get a lot more time consuming, so we needed to extend that to a 3rd day, which Ryan Schroeder and Josh Nepper were both amazing enough to stick around to help us out with that. They also have their own production company called Transposition Films, which you can find right here. They do some amazing work, so definitely check them out. But since we had that incredibly frustrating crossing bell happening thanks to the train that decided to park and stay there for God knows what reason, which Josh didn't handle very well.
Actually stop it. Why are you stopping here? Go away!
So we decided to start the day off shooting some VFX shots since we didn't need audio for those. First up was a shot of Emily and Josh jumping out of the first portal. We did this on the side of one of the silos, picking a side that matched the light angle from the day before. We set up a green screen behind them, then used these crash mats stacked up with a green cloth draped over that to act as the ledge that they jumped off of. We got a few takes of that, then grabbed our clean plate, and it was time to move on. Which by this point, Josh learned to cope with that maddening bell.
If you're not this right, just pull the C-stands apart. What are you here for?
Oh, kill him!
Next up, we moved to the final scene, which we did in this silo area that felt really closed off. It worked well to make our characters feel trapped in these final moments, and because of how the silos were lined up, there was no direct light. So we ended up with this really great soft light in the scene, which worked perfect for the look I wanted. First thing up, just like the previous day, was to run through the scene with Nepper, planning out how we were going to block the entire scene. That way him and I were on the same page and ready to move fast with our cast and crew once we got rolling. Right after we had it all figured out, I grabbed Josh and Emily to get them up to speed on what would be happening and get their input as well, while also having them go through some of the motions so I could see what it would look like and make small changes based on actually seeing them move through that space.
That's my cigar. You're stealing that. That is we got what? Since when did you become me? Stop your blabbing.
Who asked you?
Once Josh was done with his musical, we got to shooting. Again, moving crazy fast, keeping up the energy. And again, Nepper was on the DJI Ronin, which we had on the easy rig, so there was no wait time jumping between setups. We were able to grab our running shots, slower move-ins, and still dialogue stuff, all without taking time to change our rig. It was an incredibly efficient way to work. Then Nepper climbed his crazy self up a silo so we could get this high angle shot of the scene, setting up the geography nicely, and then Todd decided to do his own gun sound effects.
Think you can pay me with fake money? It's unprofessional!
It's like you're shooting them with pigeons!
I didn't really have the heart to tell him that guns and pigeons aren't the same thing. For all of these scenes, since I was making it up as I went instead of using something like Shot Lister with pre-planning, which I usually do, I just went with good old pen and paper. I would write down my ideas as we went along and what we had already shot. That way I knew for sure what I had and if I was missing anything big. It worked really well too, and I liked the sort of freedom that came from it. It left me open to see the scene as it existed and change everything up to work in the moment. Not saying I would do this every time, but it was definitely an interesting experiment. Then after a few more hours, we finished up all the main action and dialogue for this end scene, and of course, as soon as we did, that is exactly when the train finally decided to leave.
I won't miss you.
Now with all the main story and action shot, all we had left were VFX, which we will talk about after some sponsor loving. Domain.com's got some .club goodness, which .club is universal and understood globally. It's perfect if you're building a new business site, naming a film startup, or the like, because if you think about it, any business or idea really is a club. It's all about community and collaboration on the internets, which makes a .club perfect. Go to domain.com/club to register your .club domain. There are only $9.99 a year, and thousands of great options are still available. And of course, be sure to use the coupon code FilmRiot to save 25% off your order. It'll save you money. Let them know you heard it from us. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. Getting right back into it, the final thing that we shot in that space was the plate for Josh's fall onto Todd. The way that we did this was by taking 3 plates. All the shots were locked off, and we had one looking high, one midway, and one in the final position. And the one for the final position, I had Todd in there. Then, with crash mats on the ground, I had him throw himself down. Then without moving anything, we had someone come in, remove the mats. Todd tried to stay in close to the same position as he possibly could. Then we had Josh hold himself above Todd, and then the two threw themselves onto the ground on cue to act out that final ground hit, which if you ask me, looked incredibly sexy. And the last thing we got here, of course, was a clean plate. Later in post, we were able to bring in all 3 of those plate shots and stitch them together so that we could do a digital pan down. Then in the last frame, combine those 3 shots that we had, plus the shot of Josh on green screen to have that final violent hit. After that, we shot the rest of our VFX shots, which were done with the actors acting out their moments in front of green screens and then grabbing a clean plate so that we could easily mix everything together later. Of course, doing both in the same spot so we could maintain the same lighting. Although, one of the shots in post just wasn't working out the way we shot it, which was this one right here. So we went back to the location to reshoot that shot and get some pickups. Of course, at this point, Nepper and Schroeder were already back in Vancouver and we did not have the budget to rent a Red camera. So instead, I decided to rent a Panasonic GH4 from LensProToGo since it's super cheap to rent and shoots 4K internally. I was a little concerned with how it was going to cut with the Red footage, but there are a few pickup shots in the film that are all on the GH4, and so far no one has really noticed at all. But if you want to rewatch the film to try to find them all, feel free to take a look and then tweet what shots you think they might be to my Twitter right here. For that VFX shot, I decided to get rid of the green screen that they ran in front of when we shot it the first time and instead just have them jump through some green paper that we cut a hole in. Then I grabbed a few still shots since I knew that we had to extend that wall later on. So with all that in post, we extended the wall out, then we were able to use that small green area to add our actors in front of that extended wall and portal. It made the shot work 10 times better than what we had before, since for most of their run, they're actually inside the scene and not keyed in until the very end.
Logo.
But that's it for today. Next week, we're going to get into some sound behind Portal Combat and what we use to get our wireless video feed. Again, check the notes below to get info on the good people involved, the link to our short film, and check out Hit Film Express, which is editing and VFX software that you can download for free because magic. And speaking of magic, we're having another massive sale on a lot of our goodies on our Triune store, like 50% off all our digital downloads, like our music and sound effects packs. So go here to learn more about that, and I'll see you guys next time.